Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Paribrajakacharya Astottara Sata Shishimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adigor Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinatha Sharma Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Today we're continuing the reading of Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, Volume 3, written by His Holiness Satsvarup Das Goswami. Srila Prabhupada has returned from San Francisco to his fledgling temple at 26 Second Avenue, and he hit the ground running. He did not stop for a minute. As soon as he arrived in New York City, he began giving lectures, meeting all the devotees, advising them, guiding them, teaching them, non-stop. So, we're continuing now. Srila Prabhupada is in New York, and the devotees, they arranged for Prabhupada to be on a very famous night talk show. And the name of that show was the Alan Burke Show, 11:30 at night, Saturday evenings. So the devotees, they didn't realize that Srila Prabhupada had been strenuously exerting himself so much in the past year, first in New York City, and then going to San Francisco, establishing a whole second temple there, initiating about 25 devotees. Now he flew back on the plane and immediately started preaching again. And because they were all young boys, and Srila Prabhupada by that time was 72 years old, they didn't realize that it might be too much for Prabhupada, that they were arranging all these programs for him and giving the classes and the kirtans and all the advice. So there were signs that Prabhupada should be cautious about his health. He had gone through difficulty while appearing on the Alan Burke TV show. Alan Burke was known for sitting back, smoking a cigar. Smoking a cigar and saying outrageous, even insulting things to his guests. And if a guest became offended, Mr. Burke would provoke him all the more. It was a popular show. Before they went on the air, Mr. Burke had asked Prabhupada's permission to smoke a cigar. Does anyone know what a cigar is? Yes. Very big, thick roll of tobacco. It stinks, and it stinks up the whole place wherever they smoke it. Very obnoxious habit. And Prabhupada had graciously consented. Mr. Burke had introduced his guest as a real Swami. When he had asked Prabhupada why he was against sex, Prabhupada had said he wasn't. Sex should be restricted to marriage for raising Krishna-conscious children. But Mr. Burke had persisted, wanting to know what was wrong with sex outside of marriage. The real purpose of human life, Srila Prabhupada had replied, was self-realization. When one's mind is preoccupied with capturing new sex partners, keeping the mental peace necessary for self-realization becomes impossible. Mr. Burke had agreed. In fact, his manners had been the best ever, and at the end he had called Prabhupada a very charming gentleman. It was on his way home to the temple that Srila Prabhupada had said that the TV lights had caused him so much pain in his head that at one point he had thought he would not be able to continue. So when Prabhupada arrived in New York, he complained that while he was on the plane, it was the second time he had ever been on a plane, and it's about a 6-hour trip from San Francisco to New York City. He said that his ears had pained him very much. So he was still not in good condition from that plane trip. And when you're on a TV stage, they have these very strong lights shining on you for broadcast purposes. And now those lights had bothered Prabhupada, so much so that he was afraid he wasn't even going to be able to continue and finish the program. And Prabhupada expressed that to the devotees as they were driving back to the temple. Then one day, Rupanuga, sitting close to Prabhupada's dais during a lecture, noticed Prabhupada's hand shaking as he spoke. It was his left hand. Kirtanananda had been there when months ago, the morning after they had made the record, Prabhupada had slept late and complained of his heart skipping and of not being able to move. If I ever get badly sick, Srila Prabhupada had told Kirtanananda, don't call a doctor. Don't take me to a hospital. Just give me my beads and chant Hare Krishna. Swamiji's disciples were reluctant to restrain him. Kirtanananda had tried. At the Avalon, that's the ballroom where the big, the Hare Krishna, what was it called? The Be-In Festival, something like that, in San Francisco, where thousands of hippies came, and the devotees were able to make about $2,000 from that night. Swamiji had been dancing and jumping and streaming with perspiration. Kirtanananda had insisted that the kirtan stop, but the others had called him paranoid. So we can remember from way back then, when Prabhupada was invited by Mukunda and Hayagriva to come to San Francisco in January of 1967, they had the big program, and there were so many thousands and thousands of devotees, not devotees, they were hippies, and the devotees were there on the stage, and they had special speakers there, all of the Be-In leaders like Allen Ginsberg, Timothy Leary, and others. And then when it was time for Prabhupada to come, because first they had the rock bands, Moby Grape and Jefferson Airplane and the big holding company, so many different groups. So all those rock groups were finished, and then Prabhupada, the people in the audience, they made a walkway, and Prabhupada was able to walk up, go onto the stage, and then the chanting of Hare Krishna began. Prabhupada had Allen Ginsberg chant first, because he was very famous for chanting Hare Krishna by that time. And then Prabhupada started the chanting, and the whole place just started to dance, and everyone was in such ecstasy. But Kirtanananda, who had come all the way from New York, he thought it was too much for Prabhupada, because he was exerting himself so much, and he saw Prabhupada was perspiring and jumping and dancing. So he wanted the kirtan to stop, but nobody would stop. Besides, Swamiji didn't like to be restrained. And who were they to restrain him? He was Krishna's empowered representative, able to surmount any difficulty. He was a pure devotee. He could do anything. Hadn't he often described how a pure devotee is transcendental to material pangs? So this is how the devotees were seeing Srila Prabhupada, as transcendental to any bodily discomforts. Meanwhile, Srila Prabhupada, we know on the Jaladuta, had suffered 2 heart attacks right in a row, no medication, no doctor. He lay there for 8 to 10 days, he couldn't even eat, and somehow or other he recovered. As soon as he was able to cook for himself, then he regained his strength, and the trip went on very peacefully after that. Swamiji had written a letter consoling a disciple's ailing grandfather. All our ailments are due to the external body. Although we have to suffer some time from bodily inconveniences, especially in the old age, still, if we are God-conscious, we shall not feel the pangs. The best thing is, therefore, to chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So this was Prabhupada's advice for one of the female disciples. Her grandfather was suffering, probably on the verge of leaving his body. And Prabhupada very kindly wrote this letter to console the girl and to pass on this message to her grandfather, to take shelter of the holy names constantly. The devotees figured that although Swamiji might give good instruction to someone's old grandfather, nothing like what had befallen her, the girl whose grandfather was sick, was ever going to affect him. Of course, he referred to himself as an old man, but that was mostly in lectures to show the inevitability of old age. Now, Srila Prabhupada, although by human calculation he was an old man, 72 years old, he could outwalk the devotees, he could outchant, he could do anything more than the devotees, because he had a pure lifestyle, and he was getting his inspiration and his energy directly from the holy name. And even when Prabhupada would get sick, we had example here, I've told it before, when we were opening up the temple had just opened, in this room was the restaurant. We didn't have it downstairs. So the restaurant was here, and over here was the door with the spiral staircase leading down to the kitchen, where it is now. They would run the food. So Prabhupada, he wanted to taste, to make sure that the restaurant food was up to proper standard. And he was training the devotees what to cook, how to cook. So they would bring him samples of the restaurant prasadam for his lunch. And at night, 9 o'clock at night, they would bring him paratha, kachori, samosa, very heavy things, the type of things that you would order at a restaurant. Now, Prabhupada's his daily diet did not consist of those things. We practically never made fried things for Prabhupada except for kachori when he asked for it. So eventually Prabhupada's digestion was disrupted, and all he could eat was khichdi. Whenever there was some problem, Prabhupada would just say, khichdi. That's all. Khichdi, curry, and fried eggplant, because it helps with the digestion, right? So he was having the khichdi, and we were all worried about Prabhupada. And the servant, Upendra, and we were thinking, why don't we just ask Prabhupada to stop eating the restaurant prasadam, then he won't be sick. So Upendra said, all right, I'm going to ask him. So he went in and he said, Prabhupada, the doctor says you shouldn't eat these things because they're making you sick. And Prabhupada immediately answered him, we are not Dr. Das. We are Krishna Das. And he went on eating them. Because he wasn't eating it for his pleasure. He was eating it because he had to train the devotees how to cook properly. So even at this point, he told Kirtanananda, don't call a doctor. Just give me my beads and I'll chant Hare Krishna. To the devotees, Prabhupada's health appeared strong. His eyes shone brightly with spiritual emotions. His complexion was smooth and golden, and his smile was a display of health and well-being. That's all spiritual energy. One time, one of the boys said that Swamiji's smile was so virile, powerful, that it made him think of a bull and iron nails. Swamiji was taking cold showers, going on early morning walks around the Lower East Side, playing mridanga, eating well. Even if his disciples wanted to slow him down, what could they do? Some of his disciples had actually tried to prevent him from attending the controversial Cosmic Love-In at the East Village Theater, but not because of his health. They had wanted to protect his U.S. residency case. So you remember when Prabhupada came back, since September of 1965, and now it's April 1967, Prabhupada had been extending a 1-month tourist visa. 1 month, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. There's just so long you can be a tourist in a foreign country. Prabhupada, he also explains that because we don't belong in this material world, it's like visiting a foreign country. And how long can you stay in a foreign country? Eventually they'll kick you out. So where we really belong is the spiritual world. That's our real home. So instead of trying to extend our stay here, we should return to our real home in the spiritual world. So it came to a point where they weren't going to extend his visa anymore. And Prabhupada was going to have to leave the country. He was thinking of going to Canada, maybe going back to India. And then the devotees found a lawyer, an advocate, who was able to help Srila Prabhupada so that he could apply for permanent residency, green card, right? So now, just as we had the Love-In and so many things going on in San Francisco with the hippie movement, the counterculture movement, in New York also those things were going on. And there was going to be a huge cosmic Love-In with all of the folk, rock, jazz, dance, poetry, all the people on the East Coast, as opposed to Prabhupada doing it on the West Coast. And you'll see here in the bottom, Swami Bhaktivedanta. He was on the roll. He was part of it. So Prabhupada was looking forward to it because he knew how successful it was in San Francisco, and he wanted to get all the thousands of young people to be chanting in New York also. But this name on top, his name is Abolafia. Now, politics, they're different dolls, they're different political groups, right? In America, it's more or less a two-party group. Here we have Congress and BJP, two-party, and then there are a few other parties, but they're not so powerful. So in America, it's the Democrats and the Republicans, with a few other parties that they practically never win because they're not big parties. So this particular person, Louis Abolafia, he was a presidential candidate for the Love and Peace Party. So because Prabhupada was presently applying for his permanent residency, if he was going to be on the same ticket at this love-in with the candidate for not of the big parties, the devotees feared that might affect his political standing with the American government, and they might reject his residency. So they were thinking in terms of saving Prabhupada so that he could stay in the country. Prabhupada was thinking in terms of getting thousands of young people to chant Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada had been invited to attend the Love-In, a fundraising show for Louis Abulafia, the Love and Peace presidential candidate. Allen Ginsberg, Timothy Leary, same people who Prabhupada had on the stage in San Francisco, and others were attending, along with a full lineup of rock bands. But when Prabhupada's lawyer heard that he was going, he said it might jeopardize the visa case. Some of the boys took up the lawyer's opinion and opposed Prabhupada's plan. Doesn't matter, Prabhupada does whatever he wants. Prabhupada agreed that it might be best if he didn't go, but on the day of the cosmic love-in, he changed his mind and decided to go anyway. I came to this country to preach Krishna consciousness, he declared. Now it was time to speak against these LSD leaders who claimed to be spiritualists. So Prabhupada was not going to join them. He was going to set them straight with the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. He had been saying that although he wanted to go, he wouldn't go if his disciples forbade him. Who can forbid Prabhupada? But in the end, he simply said he was going, and that was that. We don't have any pictures of that, unfortunately. During the last week of May, Srila Prabhupada began to feel exhausted. Wait, what was the date of this? This is May 2nd to 4th, so it was the beginning of May. Now we're at the end of May. He spoke of heart palpitations. Hoping that the symptoms would clear up in a day or two, Kirtanananda requested Prabhupada to rest and see no visitors. But Prabhupada's condition became worse. Kirtanananda. Swamiji began to complain that his left arm wasn't functioning properly. And then he began to develop a twitching in his left side. And his left arm would twitch uncontrollably. It seemed to pain him in some mysterious way, internally or psychologically. So these symptoms, if you're a medical person, you know that these are pre-symptoms. They're symptoms of when one is either going to have a stroke, like a blood clot in the brain, or a heart attack. Because the heart attack, it affects the circulation so that the left side, which is the side that the heart's on, usually it's the left side, eventually can't function properly, and the person starts to get seizures, either if the clot is in the brain or in the heart. So the devotees didn't know that. And Srila Prabhupada, they saw the symptoms, but they didn't realize how serious it was. Achyutananda. It was Sunday, 2 days before Memorial Day. Memorial Day is the day when the whole country, they're in, you can say, all of the war veterans and those who died in the wars for the nation, they honor the people on that day. And it's a holiday. It's like a 4-day holiday that the whole country shuts down. Of course, they shut down to have a vacation, but the real purpose is to honor the war veterans. And we had arranged a large program in the afternoon in a hall uptown. So they were working Prabhupada as much as they could. although they saw that he wasn't in good condition. I went up to get Swamiji since all the devotees were ready. Swamiji was lying down and his face was pale. He said, this is Achyutananda speaking, he said, "Feel my heart." And I felt a quivering vibration in his chest. I went down but didn't want to alert everyone and panic them. I went to Kirtanananda and quietly said, "The Swami is having some kind of mild heart palpitations." And immediately we both flew back up. Swamiji said, "Just massage here." So I rubbed him on the chest and he showed me how. He said, "The others go and Achyutananda can stay here. If anything happens, he can call you." So Srila Prabhupada didn't even cancel the program because they had already rented a big hall. It was going to be a big program. He sent all the devotees to take part in the program, and he just kept Achyutananda back so that he could massage his chest. So the others went and did the program, and I waited. Once or twice he called me in and had me quickly rub over his chest. Then he looked up, and his color had come back. I was staring with my mouth open, wondering what to do. He looked at me and said, "Why are you sitting idle? Chant Hare Krishna." During the evening, palpitations again occurred. So I slept in the room next to his, and late at night he called me in and again had me massage. So this is the beginning of Srila Prabhupada's now third heart attack, and the devotees didn't understand what was happening. Kirtanananda is remembering. It was on Tuesday afternoon, Memorial Day, and I was sitting with Swamiji in his room. While Kirtan was going on downstairs, the twitching began again. The Swamiji's face began to tighten up. His eyes started rolling back. Then all of a sudden he threw himself back and I caught him. He was gasping, "Hare Krishna," and then everything stopped. I thought it was the last until his breathing started again, and with it the chanting. But he didn't regain control over his body. This is what happens when there's a clot, either in the heart or in the brain. You lose control of the actions of your body, your circulation, your nervous system shuts down, and there's what's called a seizure. Brahmananda. I was there along with Kirtanananda. It was on Memorial Day weekend. We couldn't understand what was wrong with Swamiji. He couldn't sit up. He was moaning, and nobody knew what was happening. We nursed him, myself and Kirtanananda, trying all different things. I had to go out and buy a bedpan for him. So here also we don't display it, but we have Srila Prabhupada's bedpan from when he was ill. The devotees had to take care of him. Sometimes they would carry him to the bathroom and sit him down on the seat. But when he became too ill to move at all, they had to use a bedpan for Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada was in such a condition now that he had lost control of his body. And therefore, between Kirtanananda and Brahmananda, they were trying to nurse Prabhupada at this time. Prabhupada's left side was paralyzed. He asked that a picture of his spiritual master be put on the wall in front of him. Thinking that Prabhupada was preparing to leave his body and wanted to meditate at the last moment on his spiritual master, Achyutananda taped it to the door facing Prabhupada. devotees entered the front room of the apartment, and Prabhupada told them to chant Hare Krishna. Then he told them to pray to Krishna in his form of Lord Nrsingadev. So this is also what happened each time Prabhupada became ill. He would ask the devotees to pray to Lord Nrsingadev. That's why if you go into Prabhupada's room, you'll see here on Prabhupada's bed we have a picture of Lord Nrsingadev. Satsvarup. Swamiji said we should pray to Lord Nrsingadev, and the prayer should be, "My master has not finished his work." At different times he would allow us to take turns and massage different parts of his body. Then he had us go downstairs and hold kirtan through the night. So this is exactly what happened also when Prabhupada became ill in 1974. We started the 24-hour kirtan at that time. It was before the temple was open, so the devotees would sit just because the construction was still going on. They had a place outside, and we would all take turns chanting for Prabhupada 24 hours a day, and this would give him strength. You'll notice that Prabhupada not once asked to have a doctor called, no medication, because Srila Prabhupada, because he worked as a chemist and he made his own medicines, he knew so much about homeopathy, about Ayurveda, about naturopathy, about water therapy. So he was using his knowledge, and for him the best cure was the massage of the heart that would get the circulation moving in his body. Jadharani. He taught us the prayers to Lord Nrsingadev. He said the words one by one, and I wrote them down. And then later Jadharani, she wrote the prayer that we sing. She took lots of pieces of paper and wrote the prayer on the paper and was handing out that paper to the devotees to sing. I called up the temples in San Francisco and Montreal. So we heard that the devotee Janardhan, who had joined at 26 Second Avenue, he had left New York and gone up to Montreal and was trying to start a temple there. Although Prabhupada had not yet gone there, still by that time there were 3 sets of devotees. Swamiji said, "You should pray to Krishna that my spiritual master has not yet completed his work, so please let him finish." Damodar. I went into the temple, because Damodar, he was a grihasta, and he was a filmmaker. He didn't live in the temple, but he would come for the regular programs. Prabhupada had initiated him already. He and Rupanuga and a few others who lived outside, they would come for the programs. So when he went into the temple, he said no one was downstairs. So I just sat down to chant some rounds. Then a devotee came down looking very disturbed. So I asked what was going on. When he told me, I rushed upstairs. Everyone was sitting around in the second room where they could see into Swamiji's room through the window in the wall. They were all chanting on their beads. Jadharani was handing out little slips of paper with writing on them. Swamiji, she explained, wanted us to chant these prayers. Brahmananda. We brought the painting of Lord Nrsingadev into Swamiji's room. This is not the painting. I tried to find it. It's a rather flat painting of Lord Nrsingadev tearing Hiranyakashipu apart. And Prabhupada, he instructed Jadharani how to paint it. He said that Lord Nrsingadev's eyes should be crossed. He was so angry. And his nails were going into his abdomen, and there were drops of blood everywhere. So I couldn't find that one. I found a more peaceful one. When Swamiji had to use the bedpan in front of Lord Nrsingadev's painting, he begged forgiveness of Lord Nrsinga. He could understand that Lord Nrsinga was sitting right in front of him. I saw it as a painting, but Swamiji saw it as Lord Nrsinga himself sitting there. We're having a little technical difficulty tonight, but we'll still continue. It was getting worse. Total weakness and everything. I couldn't get a doctor. This is Brahmananda, his memories. Because it was Memorial Day and everything was closed. I even called my family doctor, but he wasn't in. Everyone had gone on vacation because on Memorial Day, everyone leaves the city. I couldn't get anyone. I was calling hospitals, doctors, trying this and that, but I couldn't get anyone. Finally, I got a doctor by calling an emergency number for the New York City Medical Department. You see, New York City, in the 60s and the 70s, about 12 million people lived in New York City. Huge high-rises, the people all in their apartments, their concrete apartments, and the concrete and asphalt streets. Very little greenery except for a few little, places like Central Park, Gramercy Park. They had these little squares of greens. Otherwise, it was just all concrete and asphalt. So when finally these national holidays came, the people, as soon as they could get a vacation from their jobs, would escape out of the city. And it's because it's on the Atlantic coast. They would all go to the ocean. It's May, it's the nicest time of the year. Nobody would be in the city at all. They'd all try to escape for those 3 or 4 days. So they couldn't even find a doctor. Finally, they found one old man. The doctor came. He was an old geezer with a real loud voice. When he saw Swamiji, he said, "I think the old man is praying too much. I think he should get some exercise. He should go out for a walk in the morning." Now, Srila Prabhupada heard the doctor, because he spoke very loud, he heard the doctor say this. And after Srila Prabhupada recovered, because the doctor said this, he started going on a morning walk every day and continued that for the rest of his life. Achyutananda, the doctor didn't know very much. He said that Swamiji had a cold. I said, "What do you mean? His heart is palpitating." I don't know what to do. This is the doctor. "Does he take any whiskey?" I said, "He doesn't even drink coffee or tea." "Oh, very good, very good. Well, I think he has just got a cold." Dwarkadish Das. He came and took a look at the place, and you could tell right away he didn't like what he saw, the doctor. He thought we were just a bunch of hippies. He couldn't wait to get out of the place. But he said, "Oh, he's got influenza." That was a ridiculous diagnosis. And then he said, "Give me my money." We paid him, the doctor left, and Swamiji got worse. So there was no sense even calling the doctor. But the devotees didn't know what to do. They didn't have any medical experience, and they certainly didn't want Srila Prabhupada to leave them. The devotees called a second doctor, who came and diagnosed Srila Prabhupada as having had a mild heart attack. He said that Prabhupada should at once go to the hospital. Max Lerner, a lawyer friend of the devotees, he's remembering, "I got a call one day that the Swami had had a mild heart attack, and could I be of some help?" At the time, they were going to take him to Bellevue Hospital. Now, we remember Bellevue Hospital. It's a city hospital, government hospital. It's a mental hospital. It was the hospital where they sent Kirtanananda when he went to the draft board. They were going to put him in the army, and he told me that he had his head shaved, and he was in a dhoti. And when they looked at him, they asked him, why are you like this? And he said, well, because God told me to be like this. So they called up Bellevue Hospital, and they said, we got somebody who talks to God, come and pick him up right away. And 2 weeks he had to spend in Bellevue Hospital until they were able to get him out. So it was the closest hospital and the only one that in the city at the time. They were going to send him there. But I suggested that at least I could try to get him into a private hospital. This is the lawyer speaking. After several hours of talking and negotiating with people at the hospital, we were able to get Swamiji into Beth Israel Hospital. It's a good hospital. Brahmananda. The day after Memorial Day, we had to arrange for an ambulance. So I called a private ambulance company. It was all arranged with the hospital that Swamiji would arrive at 9 o'clock that morning. But the ambulance didn't come until about noon. So now we have Srila Prabhupada. It's been about 5 days that Prabhupada's been in this condition, having seizures, convulsions, can't take care of himself, probably couldn't even eat because his bodily functions weren't working properly. Now finally, 3 hours late, the ambulance comes. During this time, Swamiji kept moaning. Then finally the ambulance came, and they were horrible guys. They treated Swamiji like a bundle of cloth. I thought it would have been better if we had taken Swamiji in a cab. Except for Kirtanananda, who stayed in Prabhupada's hospital room as a nurse, no one else was allowed to stay. They all went back to the temple to chant through the night, as Prabhupada had requested. Kirtanananda phoned Hayagriva in San Francisco and told him what had happened, how Swamiji had suddenly fallen back and cried out, Hare Krishna, and how there had been nothing for about 30 seconds. And then a big gasp, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Kirtanananda told Hayagriva that the devotees in San Francisco should chant all night and pray to Lord Nrsingadev. So then they also sent the same prayer, Tavakara Kamala Vare Nakam Adbhuta Shringam, Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam, Ke Shavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hari. So this painting, because we know that on the East Coast, Prabhupada was having Jadharani paint. So on the West Coast, Govinda Dasi and her husband Gaur Sundar, they were painting also. So this is a painting done by them. They were making a storybook about Prahlad and Nrsingadev, and this is one of those paintings. Lord Nrsingadev, the half-man, half-lion incarnation of Lord Krishna, had appeared in another age to save his pure devotee Prahlad and kill the demon Hiranyakashipu. Prabhupada had asked his disciples to pray to Lord Nrsingadev by chanting the special mantra and thinking, our spiritual master has not finished his work. Please protect him. The boys went back to the temple and chanted together, but after a few hours they fell asleep. They wanted to rest so that they could go to the hospital the next day. So they all went with Prabhupada to the hospital, and hospital rules, only one person is allowed to stay in in the room in a private room with the patient. So everyone had to go back. They chanted as much as they could during the night, then they went to sleep because they wanted to go again to the hospital the next day. Haridas. Haridas was in San Francisco with Mukunda and Hayagriva and the other devotees. When we heard about it in San Francisco, there was grief and people were crying. There was a tremendous love and thinking about Swamiji and just concentration, a mass concentration of pulling him through, giving him strength and summoning the help of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya and everybody we could possibly call upon to lend their energies. People came into the temple doing rosaries and whatever faiths or beliefs or trips they were on, they were directing that toward a healing. They were all chanting with us. So because in San Francisco they had an altar, they had Lord Jagannath, Subhadra, Baladev, they had Kartamashi, and now they had the picture of Lord Nrsingadev that they were adding to that. And they were all sitting in the temple, chanting together, and when they got tired, they would get up and dance while they were chanting. Hayagriva. It's a night I'll never forget. We turn on the altar lights behind the Jagannaths, light candles, and chant in the flickering shadows. It is solemn chanting and even more solemn dancing. News quickly spreads down Haight Street, and soon the temple is crowded with others come to chant with us through the night. Mukunda and Janaki phoned New York, but there was no additional information. Kirtanananda is spending the night in the hospital beside Swamiji's bed. No one else is being allowed in. Hospital regulations. Yes, everyone in New York is chanting. So there's a 3-hour time difference between New York and then 3 hours later, San Francisco. So they weren't getting any new information from New York because they were behind in time. But they all, throughout the whole night, even outsiders came and they were chanting as a healing process for Srila Prabhupada in front of Lord Jagannath and Nrsingadev. We chant past midnight. This is San Francisco. Most of the guests leave, but none of us yet feel sleepy. The chanting overtakes us in waves. My mind wanders to Swamiji, to New York, to the future, to the past. I have to yank it back. This is Mukunda speaking. I have to yank it back into the room to confront the present, to realize why we are here chanting, to petition Sri Krishna to spare our master a little longer, to allow him to spread Lord Chaitanya's glorious Sankirtan movement around the world. The chanting is always here, insistent, but by 2 a.m. I begin to tire. I changed instruments just to keep awake, sometimes playing mridanga, sometimes cymbals or harmonium. Many dance to stay awake. The girls serve prasadam, sliced apples. It is dangerous to sit next to the wall, an invitation to doze off. We are so frail. Hare Krishna soothes. The chanting releases us from so much needless fretting. Fretting means worrying about Srila Prabhupada, taking shelter of the holy name. At least they felt that they were doing what Prabhupada asked them to do, to chant, to say that prayer that our spiritual master has not finished his work. So if they were doing the right thing, what Prabhupada wanted, then they didn't have to worry. Through it, we can relieve tensions, grieve, plead, and hope. It is between 3 and 4 a.m., the most ecstatic hour, the Brahma Muhurta hour before the dawn. If he is alive at this hour, Surely he will live. We sing, we chant on beads, constant Hare Krishna. We chant through the usual 7 a.m. kirtan hour and into the morning. We chant 14 hours without cessation. We cleanse the dust from the mind's mirror. We see Krishna and Swamiji everywhere. Surely now he is well. During the night, Srila Prabhupada's heart pained him. The next day he remained in critical condition. He could speak but softly and was too exhausted to converse. Skeptical of the doctors, he diagnosed himself a heart attack affecting part of his brain, thus paralyzing the left side of his body. Massage, he said, was the cure. On the morning of June 1st, other disciples joined Kirtanananda in Prabhupada's room, and by taking shifts were able to give Prabhupada a constant massage. They took turns massaging his head, chest, and legs as he directed. This simple act drew each of them into an intimate relationship with him. When Prabhupada heard that not only in New York but in San Francisco also, the devotees had chanted and prayed all night, he expressed satisfaction, not by his usual hearty smile, but by a very slight nodding and an approving sound. Despite his weakness, he was fully conscious. The doctors, or more often their aides, took blood, gave injections, and investigated. They had plans for experiments. Then suddenly a doctor came in and announced their next move, a spinal tap. Prabhupada was too weak to discuss the pros and cons of a spinal tap. He had put himself in the care of his disciples and Krishna. The doctor didn't want to be impeded. He explained why a spinal tap was necessary, but he wasn't asking for consultation or permission. Everyone, except for Kirtanananda, who insisted on staying, had to leave the room while the doctor performed the spinal tap. Neither Prabhupada, who was too weak, nor his boys, who were uncertain how to act on his behalf, opposed the doctor. The devotees filed out of Prabhupada's room while the doctor readied the largest, most frightening needle they had ever seen. Now, the reason they give a spinal tap is because the spinal cord has fluid in it. And they put this long, long needle into the spinal cord, and they extract some of the fluid. And they examine that fluid to see if there's infection, if there's blood, because that fluid goes through the whole spine up to the brain. Because in the next room over here, it was, I don't know, I think it's room number 108 now. My mother had the exact same thing happen here in 1984. She went into convulsions. We had to call a doctor. The doctor said we had to take her to CFC hospital in Mathura. It was the only hospital in the area at the time. And one Christian doctor was there, Dr. Thomas. So we're very worried. They have her in a room. They want to do a spinal tap. And immediately we want to say, well, what's spinal tap? Why do you do it? Why do you have to do it? Because it's very intrusive to put a big needle into your spine. And Dr. Thomas said, oh, you Americans, nobody complains about, nobody questions what I do in India. I know what I'm doing. You don't have to tell me what to do. And they did a spinal tap on her. But when they did the spinal tap, they found out that there was infection in the brain. Then we had to take her to Delhi. They had to take off her skull and perform surgery. So Prabhupada didn't have to do all this. But this is why they do spinal taps, to find out what that fluid has in it that's going between the spinal cord and the brain. So they did that to Prabhupada. It's a painful thing. They say it's not painful. It is painful. Okay. So the doctor wasn't asking for the devotees to consult him or for their permission. He was going to do a spinal tap. And he made them all leave the room. All they got to see was the needle that was going to go into Srila Prabhupada. When they were allowed back, one disciple asked cautiously, "Did it hurt, Swamiji?" Srila Prabhupada, his golden-skinned form wrapped in white hospital garments and lying between the white sheets, turned slightly and said, "We are tolerant." Rupanuga. When Swamiji was first admitted to the hospital, it was very hard for me. I didn't know how I should act. I didn't have much experience with this kind of emergency. I was very uncertain as to what service to do for Swamiji. It was a frightening experience. Swamiji's life was at stake, yet his disciples didn't know what to do to save him. He lay on the bed as if at their mercy, but the hospital staff considered him their property, an old man with heart trouble, a subject of investigation. As for Swamiji's disciples, this was 100 times worse than dealing with Mr. Price and company. That was just a financial situation. And Srila Prabhupada, he saved the day with Mr. Price, Mr. Prane, Mr. Tyler. And again, the devotees were helpless in that situation. But now this is Prabhupada's life at stake. Devotees had no idea what to do to help him. So they just let the doctors do whatever they felt that they needed to do. Now it was just not a matter of risking money, but of risking Swamiji. Should they allow the EEG? What was an EEG? Was an operation necessary? An operation, but Swamiji had said that he should never, ever be brought to a hospital. "Give me a massage," was all he had said, and chant Hare Krishna. So you see in this picture, this is an EEG, non-invasive neuroimaging test that can detect and record minute changes in electrical activity within the brain. This is recorded using microelectrodes, large flat electrodes stuck to the skin or scalp. The procedure is safe and painless, making it safe for patients of all ages. But Prabhupada didn't want any of these things. Prabhupada wanted massage and chanting Hare Krishna. When Srila Prabhupada mentioned his preference for the Ayurvedic medical treatments available in India, some of the devotees suggested they bring a doctor from India. After considering the expense, Prabhupada decided to send a letter first. Unable to sit up or write, he slowly dictated a letter to Sri Krishna Pandit. Who had given him quarters for several years in his temple in Delhi. Satsvarup read it back to Prabhupada and then typed it right there in Prabhupada's hospital room. So this is their lordships at the ISKCON Chippiwada temple, where Srila Prabhupada made his office in Old Delhi when he would stay in Delhi to do his printing work for the printing of the first 3 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Sri Krishna Pandit, he was the person in charge of the temple there who allowed Prabhupada, he gave him the whole roof of the temple for Prabhupada to reside. June 1st, 1967. So Prabhupada, Sri Krishna Pandit, of course he was a Brahmin, he was a devotee, and Prabhupada gave him a name, Hari Bhakt Anudas. And this is the address, Kuncha Diwali Singh, Ajmeri Gate, Delhi 6. Dear Hari Bhakt Anudas, I'm writing this letter. Now, this is not in the Lilamrita. I took this letter from the archives so that we could read the letter that Prabhupada wrote to Sri Krishna Pandit. I'm writing this letter from the hospital. All of a sudden, I've developed some headache as well as throbbing of the chest. When I rub my chest, I feel sensation in my left hand, and when I rub my hand, I feel sensation in my chest. My left hand no more works independently. I therefore ask you if there is any good Vedic physician in Mathura who can send me some medicines. That is, you purchase and send them by airmail to our temple, ISKCON 26 2nd Avenue, New York, New York. The symptom is predominantly when I get severe pain within my head, and the trembling of the left hand is coming every 10 or 15 minutes. I am afraid if this is not a disease like Lakya, the boys are taking utmost care of me. There is no scarcity of care. But still, after all, this body is subject to death. I came here with a great mission to execute my spiritual master's order, but my heart is stabbing me. Of course, I'm not afraid of Maya. I know Maya cannot touch me. But still, if I die in this condition, my mission will remain unfulfilled. Please therefore pray to Prabhu Lord Chaitanya and Vrindavan Bihar to rescue me this time. My mission is still not finished. I wish to live for a few more days. They're prepared to call an experienced Ayurvedic physician who treats such diseases, but I've not allowed the boys. But if necessary, if you can give me an expert physician who can travel here, we can send necessary money for his coming here or arrange for air ticket. You can consult the man in charge of Dhaka Shakti. That's an Ayurvedic dispensary. So now we remember all of the trouble it took for Srila Prabhupada to get a passport, to get a visa, to get sponsorship, to get the P form, and then to get the ticket. So it wasn't practical to expect a physician to come all the way from India to treat Prabhupada. It wasn't going to be an immediate jumping on the plane. He had so much to do. So Prabhupada wanted that the medicine be sent by airmail. At last, I may inform you that I am inclined toward Ayurvedic treatment. You can consult the Ayurvedic physician in Vrindavan, who is a Gaudiya Vaishnava. He knows me very well. He sells my books also. So that Ayurvedic physician, he was at Gopinath Bazaar, right on the corner. As you come up from the Radharaman temple, you go the little alley, and then on the left-hand side was his clinic. Now his son sits there. So he used to treat Srila Prabhupada. They were close friends. And also when Prabhupada became ill in 1977, he also came and treated Prabhupada for some time. And then Prabhupada insisted on having other treatment from a Ramanujacharya, Ramanuja physician from Calcutta. So Prabhupada is asking Sri Krishna Pandit to contact his friend there in Vrindavan. Two things are to be done if it is possible. To send me proper medicines and directions, that will be nice. But if I require to return, that also I can do. Please try to reply as soon as possible in English, because my students cannot read Hindi. So long as I'm in bed, it's not possible to read letters. You can treat this letter very urgently. Consult necessary physicians and let me know what I am to do. In Mathura, there are undoubtedly many Ayurvedic physicians and many quacks also. Try to avoid the quacks. I would have returned to India immediately, but the doctors say it is risky. If need be, I shall return as soon as I get strength to take the strain of the journey. I repeat my symptoms so that you can take necessary care. All of a sudden, I developed some throbbing between the heart and stomach about 4 days ago. It was so exhaustive, and it was like fainting. Then I consulted a doctor who came and gave me medicine, but it was of no good effect. Therefore, my students at once transferred me to the hospital, where they're spending more or less 400 rupees daily. That's equivalent to about $100 a day in the exchange rate at that time. There is no question of neglect. All scientific treatment is going on. But I think Ayurvedic medicine will be proper. Therefore, I request you to take immediate steps and reply me. I hope this letter will convince you of the actual position. While reading this letter, you may consult some friend who knows English very well, so that he'll read it correctly and reply correctly. There is no scope for corresponding in Bengali or in Hindi. Yours sincerely, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Stephen Gorino, that's Satsrup Maharaj's passport name, his karmi name, because Prabhupada couldn't write. He was lying on the bed. So he dictated, and Satsrup, he did the writing. Secretary ISKCON for Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta. So there's a little bit more, but we're way past time today. So we'll continue next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare